Like we always like try to prefer guys early on because it just gives you more time to like get acclimated from like a being away from home, you just going to class, even like from how we operate as a program, from like meal check-in, you have to go to weigh-in, hydration tests, like developing your kind of own process as early as possible.
Big week for us over at the Staff Meeting Podcast. We have our first guest episode. We brought on TK Kennell from Auburn University. He's been all over the landscape in strength and conditioning from college and pro. So if it's out there, he's probably done it. He's currently at Auburn University, serving as the director of applied science and speed development, while currently still being one of the 5 on staff strength coaches. So it's an interesting insight. We talk about some recruiting stuff they look at. We talk about how they train to be one of the most explosive offenses in the nation. So we dive into all sorts of things. So it's going to be a great episode. Stick around. TK's got some great insights. And here's to episode 4. I followed TK for a long time on social media, especially places he's been. He's currently at Auburn serving as the director of applied science and speed development. That's a new one. You guys just got there here in the last couple months, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I think so. We played Rice on the 28th, something like that. I want to say two of us. A boss guy here literally found out he was flying out like the Sunday after the game, like the afternoon. And then two of us guys. So Frank and I got here a week after that, something like that, to like
Okay.
December 4th.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went back home for Christmas and came back. Officially started back training here January 5th. So I've been here almost 2 months now.
Jeez. And just that quick turn,
Bro,
like going from a bowl game to like, hey, put some new colors on. It's time to go.
yeah.
Um, all right. So that
how much of your guys' staff is new? Like, are you guys learning how to work with each other right now, or like, how's that
On the
process been?
offensive side of the ball, it's pretty much almost all the same. I think about almost everybody from the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side was the newest. We didn't bring two coaches from the defensive side from USF, and then the rest of the defensive staff. Some of them, it's a mix of guys who were here with Durkins, after Durkins started DC, and then we brought in some more from Tennessee, Mississippi State. But some of them some of them like our head coaches worked with before in other places. So it's like new, but like it's like old faces kind of thing,
what
which
about
does help that continuity piece of like, hey, this is how we kind of this is how we train. This is how we kind of intro like some like our OTA stuff. This is how we kind of build it out. This is where we want some of the Rangers want to be at. So it makes those conversations way easier because it's kind of less overall. Teaching some of it was a bit newer to our DC, and so me and him had like conversations about that stuff and kind of tried to like map it out and lay it out for him. And then we just constant kind of communication of like, oh, these are days. Hey, these days like roll, like do whatever you want.
Is your is your strength staff pretty much the same as what you guys had at South Florida?
Yeah, so we brought all of us came along. There we had is our boss Geo, and then myself and two other assistants also. We just had four there, and we had a GA. Didn't bring our GA wasn't able to come. We hired another assistant for our fifth spot, and then we have two paid interns. One of them I was actually able to get that I had at USF, which is nice,
yeah?
because he's like certified and stuff like that. And then the other one we actually was gonna hire. If we had still been USF, he probably would have been our GA at USF like the following year.
At least for like when you guys are transitioning, not everybody
Mhm.
involved has to learn a new system and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
terminology and how y'all do things.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
a new weight room, probably some new
Yeah,
toys.
yeah, yeah. Like literally, all sweet. Our space is bigger. We don't have to share it now.
So that role, TK, director of applied science and speed development, right? There's a lot of words. We kind of mentioned that before we got on. So in a layman's terms, in the performance world, kind of what's all that entail?
I always just say that like I'm the most non-sport scientist, like sports science title person ever. Because like most of the time you get, especially in college, you get people who are like with sports science title usually like aren't necessarily a coaching role, like not on like the staff of five. As opposed to mine is like opposite. Like I'm still on the staff of five. I just handle our GPS as a responsibility, our heart rate monitors, like force plate technology stuff like that. Like I just handle that stuff while also like I still coach racks, still help write all our field work, write our speed workouts stuff like that. I handle a lot of our on field portion of our return to play, help with some like practice periodization, practice like load stuff as well. So like hands on like a ton of buckets. Um, Well, also, but I just have like a sports science like title, just because I'm the guy who turns the GPS on and off.
And that like sports science side is growing, especially at y'all's level, that power forward level. And it does seem like there's such a broad range of
Yeah,
like what that role is, like a sports science role. Like you said, some of it's off the field, and like it's people that have never coached an individual
yeah.
ever. And then sometimes it's like you, where it's people still on staff, and it's like full hand on, trying
Yeah,
to like
I always say that
involved in
I'm not
all
like
the
I'm
program.
not. I always say that I'm not like an actual sports scientist. I know boys who are like legit like sports science. They can like code at a pretty high level. They can handle like truly large forms of data. I'm always like, man, I'm just a strength coach who like has some sports science skill set just because I've been in places where like I just took it on as a responsibility. So actually when you're young and coming up, you're just like, hey, I just want something that like I can be responsible for. And so the two things I was able to kind of take on at like other places I've been was either like the return to play side or like the sports science like tracking side, whether it be like catapult or heart rate monitors and stuff like that.
Because I think it's, especially with how, and I don't know what your experience has been like, but at the high school setting post COVID, I've seen so many schools start to have the funds and have the budget allocated to actually purchase those things. And I
Yeah,
think the prices have actually become really, really manageable for a lot of coaches to be able to purchase those. And that's a good thing and a bad thing because we've seen a lot of high school coaches just they buy it to have it and they buy it
yeah,
because somebody else has it. They don't really like do anything other than like top speed with it. So like that's when those conversations that I'm having is very similar to like what you're saying when it comes to actually talking to coaches about what this stuff means. And now I see coaches come in like that are coming in to recruit our kids. They understand it at a really high level. Like the
yeah,
position coaches have been coming in, and when I say like this guy's a 20 mile an hour guy, or this cat's a 21, 22 mile an hour kid,
yeah,
or even with one of the guys that landed with you guys when we were talking to recruiters. Hey, he's only a 21 mile an hour guy, which may not be as much as some of them, but he gets to 19 mile an hour in 13 yards.
yeah. Break
Like
the
it
roll.
separates things a little different, yeah. So like I've loved how much those guys have been able to come in, and now those position coaches are understanding those metrics, and you can
Yeah,
tell that those conversations are happening on your guys' end.
yeah. Yeah, it's been like a huge factor. I think sometimes I think you still see it in college too, where you have a kids just like following, keeping with the Joneses. Of like everyone, one place has a 1080, everyone has 8 1080s. One place has purge, everyone has purge. Like man, and then you think of like man, are you actually like applying that stuff or like you just buy it because like that's the guy up the street bought it? Like man, like do you use like if you can use rather use two or three things super well than have 9 things and you do 'em, like you use some just collect dust, you use some of them once or twice and never touch it again.
It's like that dude that there's a coach. I'm not gonna call him out or the school out. They had like 3 1080s, and when I asked him like what are they doing for it, essentially they're timing fly tens, like with a 1080.
Man, it's just
Get that done. If that's all you're gonna do with it, probably don't need that.
yeah,
So when you're in that kind of what Dan's saying, I'm seeing the same thing. We had a coach the other day come in and they asked for times. It was like we don't time a ton of 40s, just like performance wise, we
yeah,
don't. But the coach, he was asking questions, and I was like, I can give him all the speed stuff we have. So I gave him flies, and then I gave him his GPS stuff, and he was like, I don't know what any of that GPS stuff or any of those fly times mean, but I know 21 is fast. And I was
yeah.
like, so is that like worked into y'all's conversation as the position coaches and you communicating with them? Is that kind of almost like an identity type thing that
Yeah.
grows the more you're with the staff?
Yeah, I think also, I mean, everything always starts top down. It's just like with like our set things we look for in like certain position groups. Hey, maybe if someone he's not like take the top off guy, but he's like a great accelerator. So maybe he's only gonna be a high 20 guy, but man, he can get there in 10 yards. And so it's like so it becomes like part of the conversation as well. Of like, hey, do we want looking for a guy who's like a true top end, like he's a track monster too, like he's like running 23 miles an hour, has a crazy 100-meter time, but it's like it's gonna take him a while to get there. And then versus like, hey, this guy's a great accelerator or a great top end guy, or maybe this guy's the tweener, he's kind of falls in the middle. And there are also guys that's like, man, he's not necessarily great. The time and number speed's not great, but he's a fluid mover. Fluid mover. He gets open. We have a receiver like that. He brought this from USF. He's not like he's a 21 2. So we're just still fast. It's just not like these 23 mile an hour guys, but like his ability to get open is like unmatched on the team. So it's like, man, as long as he can run 21, as long as he gets open, catches the ball. If he's 22, cool. If not, he'll be all right.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I've got kind of an interesting question for you because I coach football too. So, like, I try whenever I have these conversations, I like to know from a recruiting perspective and like college to high school, that relationship. Do you guys get, like, when it comes to recruiting, obviously those intangibles are really, really cool to have. Like, as you're recruiting, it can set you apart. If there's a kid though that has like just has a crazy good tape, but like those measurables may not be there, is that something that turns you guys away? Because in my mind, I think like, oh hey, this guy's performing, and he doesn't really have those metrics. Now, what happens when we improve those metrics or we improve those intangibles and those qualities? What happens to his play? Like, does that conversation happen for you guys?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially we always go with like part of like the grading thing is like it's like, man, what's the story the tape tells? And the tape tells you like, man, like this kid's a baller. Like, okay, maybe he's like an inch too short, maybe his arms not as long, hands aren't as big or whatever. Maybe his 40 was kind of mid, but it's like, man, if like the kid's balling out and competing at a high level and like dominating kids he's playing against, and like, man, the rest of the stuff can be developed and trained over time. And that's I think that's where I'm like, we're really lucky as a staff where we work for a head coach who like is big on like development. That's like a huge part of what we do and like how we kind of bits another part of what we did at USF, and even a smaller story here is like, man, like we don't want you to just come here for a year and be gone after a year. You know, it was like we want to come and actually like, hey, this truly is a process and like a truly development of like, hey, we have from body comp to force play data to speed numbers and strength numbers of like, these were guys we got at 17, 18 years old, and this is where they are now at 21, 22. And so like, that's a big story of like, in picture of how we kind of sell it to the guys like recruiting side of like, hey, like we want you to come here. If you're not ready to play, it's the end of the world. If you're not ready to play right away, we want to take the time to develop you physically, mentally, tactically, stuff like that. And so then you have to get a guy who's just like a baller, but they're a bit undersized. Like, man, you can make somebody stronger and faster and more powerful. If a dude's not, it's hard to make somebody competitive who's not competitive. It's much easier to turn a baller into a physical freak than the other way around.
Absolutely.
And I know we, as high school guys, we love to hear that because a lot of times, Dan, you see it too, is even though you have much better kids than we have running around, but you see people come in and they're like, oh, they're not a 4-4. And I'm like, the amount of coaches especially skilled coaches that I look at, and I'm like, there's not as many 4-4s floating around as you think. Like, our kids, like our fast kids, right, can line up, or like that can play at that level. I'm like, he's not a 4-4, but I have him on laser, and he went 4.58. I'm like, I'd be willing to put him in a 40-yard dash against any of your like 4-4 guys.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to look really, really similar.
Yeah,
so,
you're 4-4 guys with a hand time.
Yeah, that's your uncle's, cousin's, boss's, nephew's best friend.
Yeah.
I'm like, man.
At a showcase.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that most of those guys that are running a 4.5 or a sub 4.5, they're probably 20 pounds underweight from where they need to be to play ball anyway. So, like, once you put the weight on that they need to play at the next level, they're not going to be 4.4, 4.5 guys anyway. So, like, why not take a kid that runs a mid 4.5 at a receiver position that's like, you don't have to change his body comp because he's already stout enough to play. Like, let's trend him in the right direction on some of those other things, but like, we're willing to take a chance on him because he's already like, we already know physically he's capable of playing ball.
Yeah, people get so enamored of like the track times or like a 40 time, and it's like, man, like, that's great, but like football's I play at a 100-meter field. Like, there's someone else trying to take your head off.
Trying to take your head off, changing direction, all over the place.
George, we're supposed to get onto his soapbox, not our soapbox.
I know.
You just got onto my soapbox. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. And like, to that, it was the reason I've followed UTK for a while is like, because y'all's style of offense that y'all play, that's how we want to play. That's how I want to play. I like playing like that because I think it gives you an advantage, right? Because if you're not training for that and it's not in your identity to train like that, you're not ready for those demands. And so that conditioning piece of like what that word actually means inside of football, especially the way y'all play, as fast as y'all play on offense, as dynamic as y'all play on defense, like that has to be a part of who you are throughout the weight room, the field work, practice, like everything has to operate at a high level to get y'all ready to do what y'all do. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's huge. Yeah, I think from cause of nature, I remember our first game at USF, like it was West Kentucky. I think we had like 106 snaps, something like that on
Yes.
offense, which is like crazy.
Yes.
And so I was always like want to play like essentially as fast as possible. Like try, I think we average around 3.1 snaps per minute or something like that, some like
Yep.
breakneck speed. And with that, we always go with like, man, like yes, we can do all the tempos, we can do the repeat sprintability stuff. Like do things like introduction run, where we kind of like modify from the Cal Dietz introduction run. We can do all that kind of stuff, and that stuff's super valuable. And so for doing a weight room from a strength, power, speed side, hammering like max velocity work, and that sells great. But another piece of that helps our from a true like conditioning standpoint is the fact that we do a lot of football. Like a lot of the year, and it's not all intensity though. Where we'll do a fair amount of like indie and like have these OTA type style like practices that is accrue like more volume on feet, and they're at a sub match intensity the majority of the time. Even on like a Tuesday, like we'll ramp the intensity up on those days a little bit, but the rest of the Wednesday and the Friday are pretty sub match overall. And it's just like we actually look at the time, the guys would go from doing on the field with that into does some like curve tempo, does some curve linear run on that day, and it'll be like 5 reps, 6 reps, nothing crazy. Into a lift after, it'll be like a heavy lower day if it's like a Friday. Like you actually look at the whole time with like a heart rate data, you're looking at anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours of staying within a 60 to 70% of match heart rate zone from guys on our O line, D line, all the way out to our receivers and our quarterback. And so being able to stay so that from like a training side and true recruiting tons of volume 2 or 3 times a week like that, along with the tempo runs, match velocity work on a Tuesday, the edge cell work on a Friday also. That overall volume spread across that week like does so much from like an adaptation standpoint, from a physical adaptation, but also from a metabolic and like physiological side, from the endurance side. And I think that's almost like that plays just as big of a role, I would say, as like our tempos do or our series that we're just doing in football. So it's like very task specific work that you can condition to. So when we go to like actual practice and like spring ball, and we do a similar thing in the summer, the OTAs, when we go over to camp, it's not a complete shock of like, man, I haven't actually done football in a while.
Or haven't
Not
had
only
that kind of
that,
time on feet.
Yeah,
yeah, all that stuff matters. Like, and I think especially when we look at the high school realm, a lot of it has gotten very reductionist for how much we're doing. Like, we want to get guys faster, we want to get guys stronger, we want to get guys bigger. All of those things, yes, but at the same time, I think we miss one of the biggest pieces to actually developing the kids and developing athletes is what you're talking about, the metabolic side of things. All right, like and anybody that's done their CSCS understands or has done any kind of exercise science courses, your body responds hormonally based off your heart rate, your stress, all of those other things that are going into it. So if all we do are rip, 4 fly 10s with 6 minutes of rest in between each other, like we're not doing anything hormonally, like we're not supporting a developing athlete.
no,
Yeah, we're going to get really, really fast, but at some point in time, like they're going to get to the next level and they're going to be shocked when they get there because of the difference between the volume and the pace of play and the way the weight room. But if I can give our guys a better base of conditioning for
yeah,
development, they're going to get to you and they're going to be able to thrive because now they've got all of those physical attributes plus the hormonal response, the time on feet, all of those
yeah.
things we just talked about.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Most like that's part of the reason why we always say like if guys can early enroll, like we always like try to prefer guys early enroll because it just gives you more time to like get acclimated from like being away from home, you just going to class, even like from how we operate as a program, from like meal check-in, you have to go to weigh-in, hydration tests, like developing your kind of own process as early as possible while having way more responsibilities and film and meetings, but also from a training side, like man, like this is the amount of volume. Like we're not gonna be able to start so low with our Devo group. Like we start pretty low level. We even set a low level point like that. That's not the kids who get broke off in the warm up. Brady not one of them.
Good. I was
but,
about to call him up right after we got done and
no,
just
but like
trash him.
there'll be guys who are like you see it mainly with like an O line D line just because obviously just the body weight and body control. Like we'll be doing low level, slow control bear crawls, like 5 yards, and kids are like drenched in sweat. I'm like, buddy, we got like 12 tempos after this. Like, you gotta get it together.
And you're also giving them, like, especially in spring ball, you guys go through, I know most colleges will go through their installs 2 and 3 times, and then the summer. So by the time the rest of the freshmen that didn't early enroll get there, your other freshmen have been through the same installs 2 or 3 times before any of that stuff. That's a huge advantage. Early enrolling is massive.
Yeah, it's like 100%. Like, so that's something we always try to push because it gives guys an add opportunity from a technical, tactical side, and just an environment and structural side, used to training a little bit more. And then by the time they get to summer, they're like ready to roll because they've already been through spring ball. They kind of know the flow of everything. Versus the guys who come in the summer, it's like, man, you got depending on how your school works, you got 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Get ready for camp.
Yeah, you better be a dude.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a chance compared to those early enroll guys. Like,
Yeah,
you better
so
be
it's-
a dude.
100%. So it's something we always try to push just because the added stress is just so much more, and it's that added like volume of work you have to accrue. And I do wonder if some of it is you guys know more than me, just working high school level. Potentially maybe it wasn't as much of an issue when like you have more kids who played multiple sports all year round, and so they were just doing more all the time. So if you go from football season to basketball season to wrestling and then to baseball or track, and then you're back around playing, like in the summer you're doing whatever, maybe playing AAU basketball, playing 7-on-7, or maybe doing club track, and then back into football. Those kids probably can handle the amount of work more because they're used to just always doing stuff and just an active kid versus if you have guys who are coming in who like they may just been a football only kid or I went to basketball, they're just a basketball only kid. It's like, man, you just haven't done enough overall.
I think it's that, and I think it's that reductionist mindset of like less is more. But there's so many kids that we see, or I see, they're great running cone to cone. But as soon as like the environment becomes unknown, or like you're like, hey, you have from the hash to the sideline, and there's no rules. Like I need the
Yeah,
offensive guy to go score. Like their brains explode because they don't
yeah,
have that that side of the conditioning piece where it's
yeah,
like, oh, I have to go make a decision now. It's not just there's so many of these like trainers running around that make kids really, really good at running cone to cone,
yeah.
but like don't actually get any better at game quality type stuff.
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah, people, a lot of guys don't really struggle to strive like some like in the chaotic nature of the sport. And from us from the offensive side, we typically have so much option and choice stuff. So like, your ability to like read what's in front of you is like massive. So like, if guys didn't play basketball at least or play like a soccer or something, like it becomes a bit harder and more constrained. Like, yeah, man, like you don't have a set route. You might have three options.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
safety. There's no safety over the top. Take the top off. There's safety
Yeah.
over the top. Maybe I shut it down like that. If he's
Yeah.
playing inside, you gotta go outside and be able to make those decisions quick. That's something you sometimes see like freshmen who either they didn't play other sports struggle with initially because they never had to make a true actual decision. Versus like guys who have maybe spent time in some other sports, or they just process information quickly, like, or they've done some kind of, let's say, where they play with practice and stuff like that that provides them chaotic environments to adapt to. But that's why like it's huge if guys be able to process information fast and close that OODA loop as
Yep.
fast as they can.
We see that we're a big option, deep choice. Like we do all that
Yeah.
stuff, and our like freshmen when they come up to our varsity, so we run like deep choice on our junior varsity team, our JV team.
Yeah,
But as soon as they get up to like, hey, now you're running an option on the inside. If we're running deep choice now, instead of having just like, hey, go or post it up, it's
Yeah.
like now you can go ball, you can post, you can come back, you can curl, and our freshman receivers are just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
There's so much going on, and they just get yelled at for 3 weeks because they never get it right.
100%. You have definitely that ability to like to be able to have the volume to be able to tolerate to get the skill exposure and get the true technical tactical exposure you need to like become a good football player is like so vital. I think sometimes like undervalued in like any kind of like skill development piece. If people don't realize, man, the time it actually takes to get good at anything. People always do like the 10,000 hours. don't attach a number to it. It's just the amount of time it actually takes and the effort and the work, whether it be in basketball, baseball, it's a level of volume that you have to be able to tolerate to repeat those abilities to learn those skills. Whether it be a closed environment or like a non-linear, like chaotic environment, like you need reps and reps to be able to process that. It's like why guys for MMA or boxing, like why guys spar, why guys drill. It's like because you have to see those pictures to really develop. Like okay, yeah, these are things I need to do in these situations.
So
It's just like
how do
any
you?
high stakes, high stress environment when you haven't exposed your athletes to competition and when you haven't exposed your athletes to those high stress moments and then you expect them to go out on a Friday night or a Saturday for you guys and go play, then they're not going to be able to rise to that occasion. They're going to fall to, whatever their level of preparation was. But at the end of the day, for us as high school coaches and for you as a college coach, like our job is to put them in those environments artificially. Like obviously nothing can recreate a game, no matter how much we make practice, the demands of practice like a game or our conditioning sessions. We have to put, stakes on stuff. Like that's why we track as much as we do from a data perspective, not because like we want to be flashy or trendy or anything like that, but I want to make everything we do competitive as possible so that way when you get to next August, even though it's February right now, like I want our kids to like competition is a part of who they are. It's a part of their identity. And there's something to that if we take that away when they go play on Saturday in August and September, and especially once they get to November, December, and hopefully January, things are different.
Something we always do is like our kind of Tuesday practice or whatever. If say we play on Thursday, whatever that first two practices of the week is, so we call it like a 90% speed day. We even have it on it'd be on the top of like a practice phase, a 90% speed day, and within that we always want to get 90% plus of like guys' top speed for all our skill and big skill guys. But part of the caveat is that like we try to design, coach the job of like designing practice and those periods of practice to get those within football. So it's like, man, we don't care if you if you're like, yeah, if we really have to and you just can't get it because maybe the ball didn't go your way or whatever, this just didn't happen for you that day, we'll run you on the side like during practice, and we'll always run it live. But the deal is like we want you to get it. We want you to learn how to play and be fast and run fast on full coverage punt, full coverage kickoff, like routes on there, 7-on-7, 1-on-1s, where it's like big spaces for you to operate in, and that you actually use to playing fast with like chaos going on around you. As opposed to being like, all right, everyone line up, we're gonna sprint 30 yards. That's sweet, man. Like,
It doesn't get you any better at football at that point.
Yeah, you're taking that decision making process that we just talked about. You're taking all of that away.
Yeah.
And when those are gone, then you're going to compete differently or you're going to perform differently when they magically show back up.
So when like balancing those things, balancing the chaos piece, balancing like how explosive y'all's offense typically runs. Like, yeah, we got to get the max V stuff, but we also have to have this like true repeat sprint ability, snapping the ball. I think I looked it up the other day. It's like every 21.3 seconds you guys are snapping the ball this past season. And so like that can't be, hey, we're going to touch max V a couple times. There has to be some conditioning piece built in there too of just that, like we said earlier, just that ability to go do it. How do you guys, with you doing as much football as you do, how do you guys manage that piece of it?
Yeah, so we'll go. I'll do like so from the winter, for example, we'll go. Monday be our tempo, like just true like linear tempo run day. Tuesday will be our match velocity day, along with, and we'll lift like 4 days a week. So we'll do like a heavy upper on a Monday, a dynamic lower on a Tuesday, dynamic upper on a Thursday, heavy lower on a Friday.
Let's freaking go, West Side.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I know Brady told you we like wide stance bot squat and that, like everything. We'll change our bars like literally on Friday, this past Friday we literally did three chains per side like bot squat like.
Jeez.
Dope.
No, so and literally every time I tell guys just see the numbers on a sheet like all percentages like, though we do add the chains. I'm like no. That's why it's 65% on the bar because the chains, like these 3 chains are about 105 pounds at the top. But then we'll go match velocity on Tuesday. Eventually, with that match velocity, initially we don't start off with a ton of football the first 3-4 weeks. We're just trying to build a little bit of a GPP, like get a little bit of base in, and then we'll add like any kind of deep balls, big space, football stuff like OTA style will be on that Tuesday. Wednesday will be our cover day the first couple of weeks, and then we add in some like competition stuff and some low level like run through, walk through type of OTA day on a Wednesday. Thursday was our more repeat sprintability day. The first 3 weeks, that's more of our introduction runs to other like low intensity condition day for the first 3 to 4 weeks, kind of depending on like where the group is. Like at USF after year 2, that Thursday we would do introduction run for like 2 weeks, and then like because we knew like there was a level of like general like in shape they were gonna be in. Whereas like here we did an introduction run for the first 4 weeks I want to say of the winter, just because they did make a bowl game, so they had like 6 weeks off or so before we got back. And we just didn't know what to prepare for from like full condition standpoint. So let's do the lowest level thing, which make it miserable because it'll be long. And then the Friday is our like Excel day, and then that Excel day becomes Excel, curvilinear tempos, and some more small space OTA days. So all that should be all short route stuff, working in tight zone, that kind of stuff on that Friday. But OTA stuff doesn't start till week 5 of the winter. And that's how we'll spread out kind of the volume. And we'll have a set volume we want to hit from a distance and high speed distance standpoint in the week. And then I'll always adjust and like, hey, if we come a little bit short, we can add on another day. Eventually that Thursday becomes a repeat sprintability day. We took like Kier, when Kier was at William and Mary, had like the tribe test. We got to take a version of that, adjust it a little bit to where it's not a test, it's part of our conditioning. And it would be like 5 back, sprint out to the 20. If you're like a scale, eventually we'll go down to make it in 5 seconds and a 20-second rest. And then we'll progress it to, you'll sprint out 20 yards if you're a skill or bid skill, and you got to sprint back 17 yards. If you're a skill, 15 yards for a bid skill. The bids will sprint out 15, come back 12, and got to make that in 5 seconds. 5-second time to make, and then rest 20 seconds with that. And we'll build up to like 18 reps of that. And then we also use it as a level of like culture piece about it too, of like, you have odd numbers are right foot touch, even numbers are left foot touch. If you don't make the time or you wrong foot touch, like the rep doesn't count. So we had that level of piece of it too, of like the level of detail you had to have about it. And we let guys like, hey, you can talk, you can communicate, you can call out what foot. Like examples, our starting quarterback quite literally calls out every foot touch. Just to like, he'll be like, yo, right foot, right, and then I'll do like, as he's running out, he'll literally yell right before he touches, so everyone hears him. right, and then
That gets the piece done though. That's like like that culture piece you said, that like conditioning gets the dirty word. And you said it. I miss Spicy Kier on social media. Like I miss him being around, but the like that level of stuff that happens inside of those drills, like it doesn't have to be. It's gonna suck. I tell our kids that like, hey, this is just gonna suck, but like the way we want to play, we have to be able to do things like this. But your quarterback being like, hey, we are not going to mess this up. We are going to touch with the right hand. It's like almost that piece you want to see come out of that conditioning. Like it's
100%. And you see the other side too. If guys don't are communicating, or guy misses the time or touches the wrong foot, and guys start arguing and bickering with each other. So you see the other side too of like, hey, this is who we are when we get uncomfortable. Things don't go our way, like everyone, people turn on each other. So that becomes another like coaching piece of like, you guys are learning to like either respect each other or whatever the issue is, and be like, hey, this is when we got uncomfortable. Like everyone started arguing, and it's like
things are easy.
Yeah,
things are easy all the time. You're never going to get better. You're never going to have a season where things are easy all year.
Yeah,
where things are even within a game, like people are going to make mistakes. You have to be able to take coaching, and you have to be able to trust that your teammates are coming from a constructive place, not a place of demeaning you.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see when guys in just today's landscape and just going over to Auburn or freshmen, whatever it is, in the portal, you guys get people, you guys obviously recruited them for a reason to come into your program, but do you see like a lack of work capacity to be able to do what y'all want to do a lot of times when they come in?
I'll say overall, yeah. Usually because I would say in Florida, the skill guys not as much because you get a lot. Florida you get tons of kids who track 7-on-7 all year. So I would say in Florida, but usually usually more on the big side because usually you get kids who like they're obviously not doing 7-on-7 because in summer, so it's like either doing like nothing or like they're not really running. They're kind of just like
yeah.
Like, and so it's usually the big and big skills where you kind of see the more like kind of lack of work capacities in those two kind of groups. Usually the skill guys, you don't see it as much because we also try to get skill guys who like play other sports too, like where they play AU basketball, um, track, seven on a ton or whatever. Try to get some of those kids, but usually it's the bigs and the big skills usually where you see the work capacity piece fall off a lot.
It's really
I use
interesting.
from us. I can't. Obviously, we're like maybe on a fringe of because of how we play, like how much like conditioning and on feet stuff we do. Because of that, but at least from what our like kind of needs are, I guess probably the biggest one we probably see. Usually with transfers as well. Usually with transfers because it's just because if they haven't come from a similar style offense, it's usually just such a shock. Like we got a kid from a more true pro style, like 12 personnel, 11 personnel offense. He goes, that was one day. I think it was a tribe because we still call it a tribe run. He goes, "Holy shit, I'm so ashamed." I know, so that's why, but it's like February.
Yeah,
It's like we'd rather you be saying that right now than saying it in August.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
it's really interesting. We're starting to have the conversations of like 7-on-7 is like a sport in and of itself. We're saying like multiple sport, but it's like, hey, 7-on or sevens, like that's a legitimate sport all by itself that I think people miss that like how much those kids are playing. And I sent a couple of ours last year that went to like non-team 7-on stuff, and then all of our kids, I've sent their GPSs with them. The amount of volume built up in those 7-on-7 games is absurd. Like the amount of high-speed XLs, high-speed decels, like it's insane the amount of time and amount of like high intent efforts they get during those things.
Oh, yeah, especially for a whole day or 2 days. It's like, man, okay, if you had 4 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, like,
It's nuts.
One of our best corners. He's an absolute dude, but he's running track and playing 7-on-7 right now. So like the combination of the both. He's like, Coach, I'm only up to 155 this offseason, which is wild to think of because he was a crazy cover corner, but he was 150 pounds playing as a sophomore. He's like, I'm only up to 155. I'm like, yeah, because of how much like distance you cover all week long.
yeah,
You need like 10,000 calories a day to maintain.
yeah, your body can
But
handle so much.
yes, but his like what he George was just saying, like when track ends and when 7-on-7 ends and we get to summer workouts, this dude's gonna be like, this is easy. Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
And then he'll be able to like perform tactically really easily too, and that weight will come on and we'll be ready to roll for August.
With that field side of it, we're talking about all this capacity in here. Do you guys work at a really up tempo pace in the weight room as well? Is it like
Yeah. It's pretty. It's like pretty. I'll say at USA because we had 3 years there, and like we were like lucky in a lot of ways where we had really high like roster retention. So we weren't like pit to fully apart like a lot of G5 schools are, unfortunately. But so there with that, like there were times where it felt like it was like too fast. I was like, guys, we can slow down a little bit. Like we got double the 82.5%. Like we can chill out. Like you can take a second. Just you have 3 in your rack. I don't need it done. It's not dynamic day. I don't need it done in a minute. Like but so also yeah, we try to keep them like moving pretty well at a pretty decent pace, like in the weight room. And then for our heavy days, we slowed down a little bit on like the main movement, but really in the accessory volume is where we try to get it really like moving at a really good pace. On our dynamic days, of the upper and the lower dynamic day, yeah, we try to get those done, especially now because we're like have our own space and we go like way more spread out as like coaches. We all have like 3 or 4 racks. So that we'll go like the other day, that dynamic lower day, like for our skill drives, I was like everybody was done like 40 seconds. I was like, our goal is to try to get all our sets done as fast as possible. So I was like, my goal is 40 seconds today. And so like we had 2 per rat, so we were like changing the weight out fast. And we got like 10 sets of 2 done in like at a 40 second per set.
good night, just hauling through it?
Yeah.
Now, in that, with the weight room stuff, I know we talked about this a little bit before, and this is like what I was really excited about. So I hope my munchkins don't run in right now. Is like Dan lives in this like VBT space, and then something you said you've changed your mind on is like it's not necessarily a tool that is an absolute. So, like, what made you change your philosophy or like your thought process on that? Maybe not your
I was,
philosophy,
a
but
big one was seeing it being like guys get too worried about the goal of just looking at the screen. And so I was like cheating like the in range technique. Times it'd be like, oh, if I like punch my hand at the top really at the last second, like oh my velocity's higher, I move the bar fast. Or like I like throw my hip forward and my head up. Or my shoulders at the top like a squat. Coach, see? 1.2 meters per second. It's like it was point 0.5, and then that last bit we shredded the top where you cheated. And that was probably the big one. I'm definitely not anti-VBT, so I do think it does. But for us, we always do it like gotta like earn it. So it's like we're gonna go. I reckon we probably wouldn't bring it back here. They did have it here. So we probably wouldn't bring it back to probably maybe year 3. Here we've got like comfortable like, hey, this is like the standard. This is how you actually move a bar fast. Don't come up on your toes on a squat. Hey, keep your feet flat. Actually move the bar truly fast to the full range of motion, or whatever the range of motion it is that dictates like for that movement. Instead of like trying to think about being worried about the screen and the monitor. And so I think it comes like just screen fatigue, a little bit of like guys is so worried about trying to like win it. Whereas like man, guys like actually need you to move it fast. No, only need you to try to win the rep.
I get that, and that was part of the struggle. I think that comes along with the difference in population too, right? You guys have guys that are, for the most part, are going to be pretty good movers. Like obviously, there's still ways you got to teach them how to move and things how to move to your standard. But for us, like once we get to that point, especially because at our school we get them from 6th grade through 12th grade, so like they're training. Like our seniors are 4 and 5 and 5.5, 6 years old for some of them when it comes to their training age. So we have time to build the quality of how you lift and how you move younger, and then VBT for me as a tool is mostly like twofold. Number one, with our younger people, I like to set the floor of it. Like you have to move it at this speed or the rep doesn't count. Specifically because like those kids don't know how to move with intent.
Yeah.
Like they can just take a bar and just like go through intent or benching or squatting, and they're just going through the motions with it because they don't know like what that looks like. So like I have to incentivize like, hey, you got to move it at this or the rep doesn't count. So like that's been one tool for me for those younger guys. But yeah, it's all about making sure that we're moving the way that we move. We're not adding, like you said, those little extra things because and it's funny to see, especially in a high school population, which kids pick up on that. Because like I've got some that like we've used it for a couple years and they're like, all right, cool. At the end, at my squat, if I make that bar pop off my shoulders at the top, it's gonna add a little extra to my average velocity. And so like they'll employ it, they'll do it, but that's always fun to see like which ones pick up on that and which ones don't. But for us, it's an extra layer of accountability.
Yeah,
I like it because then it just motivates you, tells you, gives you feedback on your performance and those things.
Yeah, something we played around with before. When I was at Astros, we had gym aware, and we actually took we always had a screen, which had like a the iPad was like magnetized to like the rack, and we always would take the screen, just turn it face the other way. So guys, so they can only hear the sound. They actually couldn't see it and look at the actual screen. And we found it like helped a lot with guys like not cheated because like man, there's literally nothing to look at. There's literally facing the other way.
Yeah.
And something we did play around with. We did some more like kind of like advanced like guys of that spectrum was taking our basically a dynamic day and be like, hey, like you have a limited amount of sets. You have an open amount of sets until the average velocity drops. And then your set is done, then we can get into the test series. And we had a guy who was a freak of nature. Played shortstop for Astros. Now I mentioned he was in minor leagues then. I want to say he did of his like on like trap bar day, it was like 18 sets too. Because the average velocity just
kept performing.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god.
And no, I can definitely see where like, especially with higher level athletes, typically most higher level athletes want feedback. So the ability of giving them that bar speed in front of their face, they're gonna obsess over it easily, as like a performance check and as like a hey, I'm meeting the goal, I'm meeting the target. So I understand that, and I see how that could be an issue. We put ours like on the outside of the rack, so like we have the full cage racks, and like we squat, we bench on the inside of it, and then on the outside of it, we would put the tablet. That was at the school I was at before, and now we have half racks. So I could see how that could be an issue with mid set. Like, I don't want you to check it mid set. I want you to see how your performance looked over the set. Like the end number, not just every single rep. So now with that, did you find guys like, especially with your like West Side influences between the max effort, the dynamic, do you guys use any specific, or when you were using it, were you guys using any specific like targets with your, or did you put in places like parameters or constraints around your max effort movements? Like how did you guys use VBT for on those side of things?
So we did. So one of the Astros probably we used the most, and also a little bit on the UMass. So at Astros we would go. I think our ranges were. I think they were adapted either from Dan Baker or from Brian Mann's on VBT ranges, and so we'd set within the ranges of like, hey, on max effort days you want. It has like 0.4, like 0.5. On dynamic, it needs to be like 0.75 and higher. And if it got above like point, I think we did above 0.85 or above point 0.8. If it was faster than that, then hey, we would increase the weight, and it was the same thing on the max effort. Hey, you were smoking this that day, then like, hey, we're going to increase that load by another 10% or 5%. So always try to stay within that range. And then once there were some guys that were truly like, hey, this guy just needs to get stronger. I mean, we had a kid draft from Ole Miss who actually did velocity drop off sets with him of like, hey, and it was except not on the dynamic end, on like the heavy end of like, hey, until your velocity average drops within that set, like your set's not done. Like, so I think it was like. Yeah, I think it was like I think we did like 8% or 7% like drop off, and so like his like early sets were dark.
That's rough.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, you did 14 reps on squat.
I know there's been some studies out there where, especially using that as like an in-season protocol, right? So using a like a 5% velocity decrement or a 10% versus 20%, and using that to determine like your fatigue parameters within training. Because really, if you're setting for most high school kids, if you set like a 10% drop, that's for most. If we're working in that 85% range, that's like 3 to 6 reps depending on the kid. So like that's a way of controlling fatigue and controlling really like controlling the athlete's ability to continue those reps. But in the off season, you open that back up because like that's the time you want to expose them to those things.
Yeah.
So like I've used that in the past and incentivized kids like, hey, we have a total of 25 reps. If you finish in 3 sets, you're done. If it takes you 6 or 8 or 9 sets, it takes you however many sets it takes. Like it takes what it takes. But then here's each set we have a 10% or 15 or 20% velocity drop off, and that's when your set's done. But that's an awesome tool. I love it.
Yeah, it is bruising. I think a bit too when you have guys who are in this guy's case, he was like pretty like kind of undertrained a little bit, in that he had never been exposed to like true like the high end of like, hey, this is what like 1 rep and 2 rep in reserve like really feels like. And so he didn't exposure to true like, hey, this is truly what like straining like looks like. I think it was good for him because then at the point where like he didn't need it as much, but it was a big thing for his first 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It was just like, man, every main movement is just going to be real dark for you.
That's rough.
If you really want to crush them next time you see an athlete, try this out on Brady next time y'all are lifting on a max lower. He'll kill me if you actually do. But send him, start him at like, give him like 80%, 85%, and then tell him just keep going until I tell you to stop, and he's got to stop whenever that velocity drops below like 0.35 or 0.4. So instead of a percentage, you have a velocity threshold, but you use a percentage that's like 10% lower, or a load that's 10% lower than correlates to that velocity. So then you're gonna force some work, but I got some, like, I think we did like a 3-week wave of that as our max effort lower stuff. And like kids got stupid strong from it.
Talk about recruitment high threshold motor units right there.
Yes.
You have no choice. You either get the weight up or pull the weight, puts you back down.
Yes.
Awful. That is miserable. Just thinking about that. But how would, for both of y'all, and those are like open sets, how do y'all organize that, like in a group setting? Like I can understand on like that's my biggest thing with VBT, right? Is I'm like, in a group setting, how do you actually make sure like you're getting it done? And I feel like that's what I see on social media a lot is like people pop out VBT units. It's like, okay, that's cool, but like you can't manage. Like I'm the only strength coach here. I got sport coaches in the weight room, but I got a group of 58 football kids. Like I can't manage 18 racks, of being like, yep, we're getting but so with those type of sets, how do y'all organize that and make sure that's getting done?
For me, what we've done in the past is like we'll allocate like open stuff to like a set of group of weeks to like our advanced like training guys, and everyone else is like, hey, you got 6 sets or 8 sets or 5 sets, whatever it is, and that's what you have, and those are like ranges and percentages you want to say. But in our like maybe more like advanced groups, like, hey, you guys have an open set. You guys just go until you can't.
Gosh, that is miserable. Is yours the same way, Dan?
It's very similar. Like when we did those, it was like the 5 racks closest to the front where I knew our more advanced or our stronger lifters would be, and then we would and I would integrate some of that stuff like within our like 5-3-1 framework. So our plus set on the last set would have a velocity cutoff or a velocity threshold, and I think the biggest thing is you just have to understand, and your sport coaches, whoever's in the room, have to understand those sets are going to take more time, and that's okay. Like that doesn't, just because it's taking more time, I don't have to rush our kids through it. I don't have to like be constantly coaching on movement, because those are also the sets where like everybody around them are also adding juice to the lifter. They're also encouraging the lifter. That's where like you're building teamwork. You're building all of those intangibles we talked about earlier in the sets. So I'm gonna, instead of putting a time frame of it like everybody's got to be done in 3 minutes with the set, like no, we're gonna open it up. We're going to lift some really heavy weight. We're going to push ourselves, and we're going to like build some of that team camaraderie together. So having that understanding of it allows you to kind of open up the playbook a little bit more.
Those like velocity decrement sets, that just sounds miserable though. Just like, hey, buckle up, big boy, here we go. Like, I no, thanks. Like, God dang, like
build a little grit today.
Like me thinking about doing that, and I like to think I'm a pretty like focused person, but being like, hey, you're gonna do an open amount of reps with 80% on your back until it slows down. Good luck. Like, no, thanks.
One of our paid interns, so they both just started like this week, and
they just realized they're test dummies.
They get it.
So one of them was training with Frank and I. Like maybe part of it's like teach them. The one who would have been our GA at USF, who was still there. And part of it is teach them some of the movements. So we try to do some of the same stuff we're doing like with the team. But the other of it's just just to fuck them up also. So we're like, hey, like Brock's like, we're out today. We're just doing we're doing 3 chain also each side. We're doing straight bar instead of yoke bar, and we got doubles. He's like, how many? We're like, I mean, just until you get close to failure.
Yeah.
And he got like 295, and then the second rep was a grind. He looked at us. He's like, so what? You gonna do another one? And we're like, think like, yeah, you're doing 315 next, buddy.
TK, I've got a great idea. So this week, Georgia's flying into Atlanta, and we're going on a little road trip together, and we got to stop down in South Georgia. And I think when we stop down in South Georgia, we're going to get George on some VBT drop sets there before we head to Miami.
No, not happening. Not to get in a car for 13 hours the next day.
All the more reason.
No.
All the more reason to do it.
That sounds miserable.
It's already going to suck. Just make it a little bit worse.
Yeah, like, no, thanks. I really am. I'm sitting here thinking about that, and I'm like, yeah, you're going to get stupid strong, but it does. It makes me feel like the intern at GA days. I remember one of my stops, you lifted with the head strength coach. Like, that's what you did. And we had like 5 interns or something like that, the full-time staff. Like, but he was like, nope, you're lifting with them. And one of the other interns came in, and he hadn't had any other experience. And he walks into one of the assistants. He's like, so is this like a heavyweight, low reps, or is this like a high reps, low weight? And the assistant goes, no, don't act like there's a difference. It is heavy and it's a lot. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I had just come off almost like a true Olympic block. So I was like singles and triples and like that. And I got my face kicked in for like 3 weeks, because it'd be like that. It'd be like sets of 6 until you fail. And I'm like, what? And then he would tell you how much weight you were putting on the bar. George, you got this. So it's blah, 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 and go down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just getting crushed right now. It was miserable. No thanks. But in the, I guess to kind of close us up, TK, me and Dan, we're still learning this, but I think one thing I want to put in, I don't know, I haven't talked to Dan about this, so is a segment at the end to give you hey, what needs to change in our field? And just open as your psychotic VBT decrements. That's just an open chalkboard, I guess, of where would you like to see the field turn, or what would you like to see change? Yeah, big question. My bad.
No, you good. I would say a big one would be. I'm trying to think of something that this doesn't sound counterintuitive because someone who's been on I've been had social media since I was a sophomore in high school, so I've been on Twitter, Instagram for forever. It feels like, but I think to a point, our freshmen is so become. Which I'm all for posting your work. I think that stuff's great. I think that's a good way for people connect and reach out to other coaches. But I always tell people it's not necessarily a learning tool. It's a way to it's a medium of how you can speak to someone, talk shop with someone, chalk it up, grab coffee, whatever. But you should, in the day, you should go back to books and research, and also visiting coaches. And I always go bad. I learned the most from either conversations over the phone I have with people, going to actually see them work a little bit. Yeah, meet or grab coffee or grab lunch together or whatever, or just reading books and research. So I always go back to those those are the foundations of learning. And you can only get so much from someone's Instagram or Twitter post. So you can get the very surface level, right? You don't have so many characters, stuff like that. But it's to get the true depth of information. You gotta go search out a little bit on your own. So I think that's probably the biggest one. It's not people take what people post on Instagram or Twitter as oh, this is it. I got it. Saw this guy's Instagram post. I know everything there is to know about speed development.
Copy and paste.
Yeah. It's man, no, you should probably ask that guy where he learned it, maybe read the books, articles he learned, and then after you finish the book, the references part, read where those people learned it from. And then be oh, okay, man, I don't know anything yet.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that's why I'm coming over is spring at some point, because I need to figure out how we can snap the ball faster. So I'll be headed over there at some point for that reason. It's the same thing, like you said, right? Social media is almost this introduction that we wouldn't have had without it. Yeah. But then it's all right, I need to go learn and I need to go figure out they play the way I want to play, or they seemingly train the way I want to train. I need to go visit those people and figure out how I can better put my kids in a place to win. So
even also we were the first. I never worked anywhere where even I never come to a programming before. Started even with my own training or in a team setting. We never worked in a place where we've wide stance box squatted, and that's our bread and butter movement. And until I got to USF, and then showed me how to do it, I started putting in my own training, learn, diving deeper more into I had read the West Side books and Louis Simmons, but I never actually thought of wide stance box squatting outside of the realm of competing in geared powerlifting. Then started seeing my own training, seeing how the guys. I'm oh man, that's just a ton of value to this. You don't have to just front squat and free back squat. It's okay to do this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so even just seeing that and being able to learn, talk to my boss and for that about it, and dive deeper into that movement specifically was something that I hadn't really thought about as a true main movement for a team, and seeing the value of it now.
Yeah, that's money, and I think that's a great way for us to close this up. TK, I appreciate it. I appreciate you jumping on a Saturday morning, and hopefully, as we continue to grow this thing, we get a little bit better at interviewing and talking to people. And as you guys get a little bit more time there at Auburn, we'll have a part 2 and kind of see how your programming has evolved into it.
Oh yeah, for sure. We can definitely hop on. We hop on anytime.
Hey, I think I propose that next one's going to have to be in person though. You're an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes for me. George, he can screw it. He can drive down. We'll all meat up. We'll do in person round 2.
4 hours from Jackson.
Yeah, something like that. It's
4.5. Yes, it's I'm driving to Jackson. My wife told me they were doing 2 weeks, I think.
See,
Yeah, it's just our family.
we'll get it. We'll get it in person in
right
Jackson.
It'll be right after I get George's drop sets. He'll give you those. He'll give you the feedback on it when he meets you up in Jackson.
Miserable.
Because, yeah, I got all family in Clinton, so some family in Greenwood. My dad's in Madison or Canton. So like, yeah,
Oh, right there. Like all that's right here. So
that's my old neck of woods. Live in Greenwood as a kid. Delta kid at heart.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. That in that Delta world is it's a different place altogether.
Yeah, it's different.
Like,
It's different.
Especially like where I am in the bubble of Madison. The
Yeah.
Delta is a different world. So, but all right, cool, TK. I appreciate it, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate you guys.